Hey, I'm your host, Melissa, and I want to welcome you to Not Your Average Blonde podcast. I'm here to show you how to elevate your life to become the best version of yourself. I want to take you along your journey to be anything but average and step into your confidence era. Join me each week by subscribing and listening to Not Your Average Blonde podcast, and let's begin our journey to become anything but average. Welcome back to Blonde Boost, the podcast that's all about helping you elevate your life one small step at a time. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Monday as we're getting ready to dive into something deeply personal and powerful, which is creating your happy space. This is a space that feels like yours. It grounds you, it fuels your creativity and your peace. And I'm finding the older that I get, especially as life gets more chaotic and very noisy and just overwhelming at times, I'm finding myself needing a space, whether it's in my home or if I'm traveling, finding a space that is where I can cultivate a happy spot where I can kind of retreat and heal just from all the chaos and stuff in the world. And as life gets so chaotic, this is a big reason why you need to have the space. The space becomes your sanctuary. It's where you can slow down, recharge, and reconnect with yourself. For me, my happy spot, especially when I'm home, is somewhere with a lot of sunlight, ideally outside. I absolutely love indoor outdoor living. I need a calm atmosphere, the soothing sound of water nearby, a warm cup of coffee in hand, plants around me. I absolutely thrive having plants around me. But this is where I feel present and calm and inspired, where I can go and journal. I can just sit there and just enjoy and reflect, enjoy my cup of coffee and reflect on the week or dream about the future. It's where I can feel inspired and allow my mind to really go and to imagine what I want to build and the life that I want to build and the person I want to become. This is also a spot where I can have meaningful conversation with someone that I care about. If I invite someone into that space, this is where we can connect and where our creativity and connection can continue to flourish. This is a space that it makes you feel alive and aligned. And I'm finding that when I have this space and I actively use it, it replenishes my mental energy, especially after those really demanding and grueling weeks that just leave you completely drained. I will often spend a lot of my Saturdays or my Sundays, particularly my weekends in this space. I'll start my morning there, and where I can just work on reducing my mental fatigue and allow my mind to be able to shift into that restorative state. So I highly recommend it. If you don't have a space yet, I want to encourage you to be able to cultivate one, build one. Start reflecting on what makes you feel at peace. Is it natural lighting? Or do you prefer more of the dark? And, kind of think of the atmosphere of sitting in front of the fireplace. You have your fireplace going, you're sitting in a warm, cozy chair reading, a book, and it's snowing or raining outside. Is that more your vibe? Or do you being outside in the sunlight with the warmth and the water, nearby, whether it's a river or the ocean, and you can feel the sun on your skin and you can feel the gentle, warm breeze in the air. Really think about it. Think about those moments where you felt the most calm and centered, those places in your life that you visited that, really ground you. Let that guide you to imagine what your ideal space is. And maybe it's a corner in your living room or just a quiet spot in your backyard that you can cultivate. But the key is identifying what elements bring you back to yourself, what elements bring you to be in that present and that open up your mind and inspire you. Like I said, I personally love spaces with light. I have a comfortable chair where I can be warm, whether sit in the sunlight or bundled up in a blanket. I love having plants nearby. If I can hear, the trickling of water as well, I also find that very calming. Whether it's trickling of water from a pool or, a river nearby or the ocean, I absolutely love it. It's so amazing. It's so good for you. But as humans, we naturally have that inherent connection in nature, which is why I think I know I truly love it. I love feeling connected with nature and I said, especially plants and animals as well too. But our minds, they're wired to feel comforted and grounded when we're in those environments. We're happier when we're in environments that have those natural elements like plants, water, sunlight. And so like I want you to kind of identify what environments, do you have? What environments do you already have one created? What environments have you been in that you have found that like really ground you? And notice like the key elements with it. I know for me, one thing is like I need to make sure it's a clean space. I have to kind of like clear out the chaos. It's very hard to cultivate good energy in a space that feels cluttered or chaotic. And if you have a space in your home that comes to mind, but it's a bit cluttered, it's worth taking the few moments to clean it up. Begin by decluttering, letting go of like anything that doesn't align with like the energy you want to create. Make room physically and emotionally for what truly supports you. When you create the space, this often creates clarity, and that clarity sets the foundation for more intentional living, which is why you're listening to this podcast. And think about like elements within that space that spark joy or that like inspire you. Maybe it's a vision board, your favorite books, artwork, plants, fireplace, games, music, whatever it may be. Like these elements, they're not just decorations, they're tools for building that life that you want. Choose pieces that resonate deeply with you and like reflect your dreams and that calm you. And when you surround yourself with the things that calm and inspire you, that space becomes a source of energy and motivation. It literally becomes a respite from the world. And like research has shown that environments that are designed for relaxation and inspiration, they lower your cortisol levels, which cortisol is the hormone that's responsible for stress. In reducing stress, it's vital for like your mental health, and having that dedicated space where you can unwind encourages the body's relaxation response, which is going to lower the physical and mental tension that you experience. Now, the space doesn't have to be like perfect. It doesn't need to look like something from Pinterest or Instagram. It just needs to feel like home to you. It needs to resonate with you. Stop focusing on what others are doing or how their space looks. Yes, you can use it for like inspiration, like as you're building yours, but really connect with those elements that connect with you. You want to create a room that's going to, you're going to want to create room to build something authentic, something that aligns like with your soul. Your happy spot isn't about competition. It's about connection to you, connection to yourself. And when you create the happy spot, like you're training your brain to associate that space with positive emotions and mental relaxation. Over time, your brain is going to rewire itself to respond to that space with a sense of calm and making it easier for you to enter a peaceful mental state when you visit your happy spot. This is a process of neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to form new connections based on experiences and emotions. And the more you frequent that space and you engage in that relaxation, you're literally going to rewire your brain. Now, sometimes we get confused about like what we want because we're so focused on what everyone else has. But when you turn inward and focus on what you want to build, you're going to free yourself up from comparison by creating a space that is designed for the life, that feels true, that feels like authentic to you. Now, once you like your spot is ready, you got to make it a habit of using it. Like I said, going back to that neuroplasticity, like the more you use it, the more your body's going to be able to like rewire the brain. And whether you make it a daily ritual or just have a few moments of stillness, or you take the space and you do your creative work in it, honor that space every time by showing up intentionally. When you find a place when you feel happy and calm, your brain is going to release dopamine, which is that feel good neurotransmitter. This creates a sense of reward and motivation to return to that space. Now, who doesn't want that? Like as you regularly visit your happy spot, like the brain is going to learn to associate it with pleasure and relaxation. It's going to reinforce those positive behaviors and your emotional well-being. So let the space be your go-to, like when your life feels overwhelming or when you need to reconnect with yourself. This is your grounding point and will be like your retreat. I use mine like several times a week, whether, like I said, it's in the morning or in the evenings. Ideally, I love to spend like my Saturday mornings like in my space. Like I will get up, kind of loosely get ready for the day, like wash my face and like brush my teeth, but I'll go grab some like water and like make a healthy breakfast, grab a couple of books and like a notebook and a pen, and I'll go outside. Like I cultivated my space out to be like on my back patio, and I'll go sit outside and just be and just enjoy. I'll slowly eat. I will try to stay off my phone as much as I can. I will, journal or write down like ideas or thoughts, like in like my notebook. You read through like some books or study, languages, kind of tapping into that creative part of like my brain. But this is a space where I like to go to just to kind of recover like from the week and kind of like to recharge my mind, my brain. Now, your happy spot, it isn't always static. It can grow and evolve like as you grow. So as I, continue to grow and evolve, like I'm changing my space up, like little elements of it. Whether it's, outside or inside, or even like when I'm traveling. When I travel, especially if I'm going to be someplace for a longer chunk of time, I will either cultivate that space within like my room, or if I have like a hotel room that has like a balcony, I'll cultivate that outside. Or I'll find a space where, whether it's like a small cafe or someplace like in a park or wherever, where I can go with a cup of coffee and kind of try to kind of recreate like that same feeling, that same element, that same space where I can go and recharge. And it's good to kind of like mentally like challenge yourself a little bit by, evolving and growing like that space. By adding in like those new elements or slightly change it, it's going to align more like with your goals and like as your passions shift. You can also create like a new space altogether that's going to resonate with where you are in life. Like I did this last year with like my backyard. Like I completely overhauled my backyard and made it into a space that was healing and recharging for me as well as for other people that like I invite over. Give yourself that permission to change and adapt your space as you change and grow. Your needs are going to change and you got to adapt to be able to meet those needs. And creating like a happy spot, it's so much more than just like the aesthetic like of it. It's ultimately about creating that energy that's going to allow you to breathe and think and dream and feel grounded. It's about designing a space that aligns with who you are and what you value. And when you're in this space, you're not comparing or competing. You're simply building your dream one intentional moment at a time and recharging. So I hope this inspires you to create or refine your own happy spot. Start small and like take your time and make it yours. Like so go on to Pinterest and maybe pull a few elements from there of what inspires you. Take a notebook and write down like those elements that you find that like heals you and recharges you. Because like when you have that space that supports you, like everything else feels a little bit more possible. You're giving yourself like that break to both be able to rest as well to unlock like that creative energy that, inspires you to be able to build like a bigger and better future for that aligns with you. So thank you so much for tuning in on Not Your Average Blonde podcast and Blonde Boost. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need a little inspiration for their own happy spot. I'll see you next Monday for another boost of motivation. And until then, take care of yourself and your space.